Okay, I get the plan thus far, Delia said, scratching his head, as he tried to suss it all out. But the next thing I don't get is who exactly we're waiting for. I mean, why do we need to be here if you're just summoning up a bunch of yourself? As freaking crazy as that is. Hell, your entire plan sounds crazy. It doesn't even really sound possible. But up until a few minutes ago, I would have thought an army of yourself was impossible. So, you live and you learn, I guess. But who is it exactly we're waiting for? Some special variation of you? Well, partially yes, and also partially no, Jax replied. There is one special variation of myself that's going to be coming along for this ride. Look, all of the partitions that you see around you are more than strong enough to hang with most other entities in the universe. There are very few that would not find dealing with any one of us a challenge. In terms of human strength, we're hundreds of times stronger than the typical human. If a car were driving by on the street and hit us, we'd have to be concerned for the safety of the people in the car, not us. We'd be fine. But the creatures that we're dealing with are far from easy to handle. They are exceptionally dangerous and durable. My first interaction with them, I attempted to try to surmount a few of them, and basically got nowhere in it. I was throwing partitions at it in waves, and they barely even slowed it down. Honestly, I'm not sure if we were actually able to injure it. So you're going to have plenty of backup, but most of them are just going to be working crowd control. In other words, we're going to be primarily cannon fodder, making sure that all of them don't gang up on you at the same time, and trying not to die. Because honestly, I think you're one of the only ones who has the juice to take them out, without dropping something absolutely crazy on them. Which I could by all means do. But the problem is that that entire area is completely flooded with that radiation. There's no telling what kind of effects might occur if I decide to utilize any super weaponry. For all I know, it could detonate the entire fucking place. I don't know how that radiation in that dense of an amount would react to a heavy scale attack like that. And with as powerful as that form of radiation is, I'd rather not find out. For all I know, it would set off an explosion that would put a supernova to shame. In case you're wondering what that is, a supernova is what happens when a star explodes. And based on the level of radiation in that place, yeah, it would make that look like a firecracker. If something were to actually detonate it. That is, if it's detonatable. Truth be told, I don't want to find out. So, super weaponry is off the table. But I do have one piece of weaponry that I think might be utilizable. And it's, of course, me. Or another partition. But this one isn't like the rest of us. He's going to serve as your primary backup in helping you eliminate these things. Hopefully he'll be useful. His abilities far exceed that of the rest of us. He's Prototype 1 Godslayer model. Godslayer? Delius replied. Yeah, I began constructing some prototypes. Really advanced stuff. Scary. That was after I had to deal with a Solaran for the first time. That was not a fun experience, and it had some heavy tolls. So I decided that I needed something capable of dealing with threats on that level. So I began creating prototypes, which I labeled Godslayer models. Basically pushing everything to the absolute limit in order to create physical bodies that would be capable of dealing with assailants at that level. And this little job of ours got just enough clearance for me to pick up 3 of them. 2 of them are going to be fighting their way through in other segments to help deal with the ones on the outskirts. But since I have you here with me, and you're going to be going into the thick of it, I figured you should use some backup that might actually stand a chance of doing some real damage. So, one of the Godslayer models is coming with us. Godslayer Model 1. Prototype 1. Effectively, he's primarily constructed with a very special metal, and powered by, well, I'm not going to go into the details of what he powers by. You probably wouldn't understand it. But suffice it to say, it generates an absolutely absurd amount of energy. So much so that it's actually overwhelming, and generates an absurd amount of excess heat, which is actually why I used it. You see, the excess heat that it generates is actually one of the primary ingredients that holds the entire thing together. You see, Prototype 1 Godslayer is made out of that special alloy that I told you about. The problem with this alloy is that it only remains in a solid state. And by the way, when it's in its solid state, it's basically unbreakable. And trust me, I've tried. Very hard. But when it's not in its solid state, it basically becomes just a liquid, like a pool of water on the ground. And here's the funny thing about it. It actually works in the reverse manner that most metal works. Most metal cools and then hardens, setting its bonds and becoming a solid metal once it's down to a reasonable temperature. But this metal works the opposite. When it cools off, it melts down, turning into a liquid state. That's basically useless. But as long as it's superheated, it remains solid and next to indestructible. So, Godslayer Model 1 is made up of this substance, and is constantly heated. The more power its core generates, the more heat it off-puts. The more heat it off-puts, the stronger the metal that it's made of becomes. Basically, the harder it fights, the stronger it gets. And no amount of heat is going to make it melt away, which was the problem that I had with the Solarans. And trust me, that is a hard border to cross. But I don't suppose you had a problem with it. No, not really, Delius replied. I mean, they burnt away my clothing, which was a bit annoying, but I was fine. Of course you were, Jax replied, shaking his head, as the female's voice once again began to announce into the docking bay where they were standing. Target located. Verifying energy signal. Status confirmed. Energy level verified. Target has reached designated location. The doctor is ready to meet. Now opening gate, the woman's voice said, as another flash of bright light appeared in front of Delius and Jax, as a tall, slender individual, wearing a fine suit and walking with a cane at his side, began to calmly stroll his way through the gate, stepping onto the floor of the docking bay as the gate disappeared behind him. What the hell? Jack said, staring at the individual wearing that fine business suit, striding in like he owned the place. Who the hell are you? Jack said, looking at the man seriously, as Delius felt confused. Wasn't this the person that he was waiting for? Why was he confused? Delius thought, as all of the different duplicates of Jax began to look on the situation, some starting to gather and get nearby. I'm sorry, I received a call that apparently somebody wanted to do some business, so I arrived. I must say that this place is quite impressive. The doppelgangers are new. That I did not expect. This is quite interesting. Hey, pipe the hell up, Jack said as he took a few steps towards the individual. "Where's the doctor? Who the hell are you?" Jack said, staring the man down as he placed his cane in front of him gingerly, leaning on it softly as he seemed unfazed by Jack's concern over his identity. "My name is Reginald P. Worthington the First, and I have no idea who the doctor is. I was led to believe that you were trying to contact the devil." "Well, call the devil and he'll knock at your door," the man said, as Delius suddenly felt extremely confused.